It's always better to know where exactly you're at with your sexual health and how to keep yourself in the clear. To help make the process a whole lot easier, GaySA Radio is here to lend a helping hand. So in the studio with us tonight, we have a professional in the field to answer a few questions. Welcome to the Steam Room.
GaySA Radio, you're a family and turn to Jean now to talk about sex clubs. Why do you think there's a need for men to have sex in spaces like these clubs?
So again, if I can give a historic perspective, I do think it emerges from the fact that so much of same-sex sexuality was hidden, was taboo, and happened in secret. And the way that sex was organized in the gay community then would have those roots. And of course, sex clubs and the propensity to use them is something that has grown from a gay subculture, and it's become part of a mainstream or alternative or a kink culture as well. So definitely it's not men who have sex with men only that would use sex clubs nowadays. And historically, it would have had this thing that indeed it was done under the radar and in secret. Nowadays, it's done as a commercialization and a way where people could find what they're looking for in spaces that are organized in accordance. So, of course, if you think of a consumerism, that would make perfect sense, that it makes it easy because you know who you're going to meet, that it's like-minded people, and it's done in a context that's geared for it.
So what kind of men visit these, specifically the gay sex clubs?
Not that I've read anything related for a long time, but if I sort of tap into what I understand and know of the context, I think it could be a very wide variety of clientele, and it could be from someone who comes from a rural context where there's no gay organized life whatsoever, where potentially they in a heterosexual relationship or marriage, and they know of these spaces and that they're organized to accommodate, to allow for gay sex or men with sex with men, and that people travel for that purpose. So it's from that side of the spectrum to people who indeed are very liberated sexually, who do not necessarily want to be in a relationship, are not necessarily in a relationship, and they know that it's sex on demand that they can get. Then of course the people in the middle of that you'll find there as well.
So are there any health risks associated with these kinds of venues?
Without wanting to generalize, because I know of sex clubs internationally that are particularly geared towards promoting health, and where a lot of the health services are done in combination or with the support of LGBTI health organizations who would bring the lube, the condoms, who have those spaces to encourage people to test for sexually transmitted infections, who for that matter would have posters or other signage to encourage safer sex. So indeed, a sex club can be a space where health promotion can happen and happen very well. But of course, there are many sex clubs where the owners, the management, or the clientele would not be interested and would see that as a turnoff, and where that does not happen. So I do think you find both sides, but of course, a sex club has all of the risks that are associated with where people are there to have sex. Some people would be inclined to have safer sex. Some people would see it as the other person's responsibility to initiate the safer sex and won't take that responsibility on themselves. And of course, it all has to do not only with the context and the norms that are enhanced in that context, but also the individuals who are part of that sexual encounter.
But how does somebody prevent STIs and HIV when they're in these kinds of clubs?
So one would hope that management and the owners work together, collaborate with health organizations, and that they allow access of health organizations to support that kind of a culture. One would similarly hope that there are health messages that are posted or encouragement of that kind that would happen. But look, in the end, whether one talks about chemsex, whether you talk about sex clubs or the likes, one can make it the authority's responsibility to monitor and police these things. Or you can say that we all have individual responsibilities and rights, and we all should come from an informed position, and then make the onus less the state to police and enforce these things. but make it internal locus of control where you encourage people to take care of their own health because they want longevity, because they care about themselves and they care about their own sexual partner and or community, and for that matter, that they support norming around health and safer sex. So they're two very different perspectives. Of course, I'm a liberal Democrat, if I can call it myself. So, of course, I think it's less government's responsibility to enforce these things. I do think it's more of individual responsibility to ask for it and manage it accordingly. But, of course, I also I factor in the fact that a lot of people do not care about their health because they are depressed, or they feel excluded, or they feel that their sexuality is problematized, and they internalize that. And of course, in contexts like that, one would hope that health services are available and that people use the opportunities to reflect on their own practices and their own identity and their own longevity and manage their lives in accordance with health and health promotion.
Final question is, do you think these clubs are good or bad for mental health?
I wouldn't want to make a value judgment around it in the sense that, for all the reasons I've already mentioned, I think a sex club has all of the possibilities to emphasize health and well-being, and that would include mental health. I think sex clubs can perpetuate a context of secrecy and hiddenness and things that happen in the dark and stay in the dark, and for that matter, feed on people's not feeling good about themselves. So if it's fueled by people feeling guilty about what they do and not taking the necessary precautions, and where they feel out of control with what they do, I think it can be very bad for your mental health.
Thank you so much, Jean. Now chatting to us about sex clubs.
That was inside info on how to keep yourself safe and anxiety-free. My name is Max, and you're listening to The Steam Room here on GaySA Radio, where you are family.